Part of your statement here, they seem to acknowledge that they do have a debt, but it seems that they are saying they've cleared it. They said, this year alone, we've paid over 2 billion naira to FAAN. 35% of total airline revenues in Nigeria are paid back to government agencies. But several figures are currently bandied by FAAN as being Arik Air's indebtedness to the government agencies. It says, according to him, the airline has an outstanding balance of 1.6 billion naira from the period before the pay-as-you-go regime began, noting that the former Aviation Minister had directed that such outstanding be cleared within 30 months.
Continue, and they say after that they've been paying 100 million naira a month. all of that.
I don't have
lies.
that here, but that outstanding that they're talking about, the 1.6 billion naira, does it ring a bell anywhere?
That is Arik's. That claim comes out of Arik. I don't know anything about it. But I want to challenge the media also. When an airline tells you that 35% of the airline revenues are paid to the agencies, please ask them to prove it to you. I'm telling you now. I'm telling you now that it's no more than 4% of their revenue that they have to pay to the agencies. No more than 4. Now, they don't say 8, they don't say 9, they don't say 10, they say 35. They deceive Nigerians and make Nigerians think, 35% of their revenue. What revenue do they pay? They haven't even been paying. So they're not even losing a dime. He says that they say that they've been paying 2 billion naira. Do you know what they're talking about? Our passenger service charge that they must buy the tickets before they sell to the passenger from us. Because if we let the passenger put it on the ticket, they will not remit it to us.
When did you begin to print those tickets?
18 months ago, about, maybe March last year, something like that, about 18 months ago. So
you can't tell us for sure when they began to owe the 7 billion naira or when their indebtedness to FAAN started?
Oh, it starts from shortly after they began to operate. And it got progressively worse in the sense that, sometimes you owe 100, you pay 80, and then you owe 100 and you pay 70, then you owe 100 and you pay 30, and then at some point you owe 100 and you say, what the hell, it's a government agency, I'm not even going to pay them.
Do you think that there was anywhere that FAAN could have been compromised, maybe before you came on board, that encouraged that kind of attitude on the part of the airline?
It's hard to say. It really is hard to say, but I cannot fathom it. I cannot fathom how one can continue to operate without paying bills and dismiss bills when they are presented to them and say to the public, I don't owe them anything. It's unacceptable. It's making a victim of Nigerians and the federal government. It's unacceptable.
So what makes up, how did they come to 7 billion in terms of the services provided? Maybe for FAAN, for instance. Is it the landing cost, the parking cost?
Landing and parking charges over a very long period, plus unrecovered passenger service charges that were on their tickets long before we started to collect the passenger service charge more or less by force 18 months ago. So it's an accumulated debt. A lot of it is not even their money. A lot of it is our money from the passenger that they collected for a couple of years or more that they did not remit to us.
If there's any kind of denial that we're getting now, is there any evidence to show that they owe this amount?
Yes.
Have you been talking with them? Your accounts have been in talks with them?
We've been talking with them for a very long time. There's a lot of shenanigans, and I say it. They come up with what I should now throw back at them as spurious diversionary tactics. They say there were bed strikes that cost them so and so money to fix. So we must deduct that off the money they owe us. And I say to them, but that's nonsense. There's nowhere in the world where you have a bed strike and the airport pays you for the damage to the aeroplane. There's nowhere in the world. Why do you want to start that? So they keep bringing one excuse or another to suggest that we should offset their debt with some spurious things they bring up. We dismiss all of them. We've been asked to reconcile several times. The last time, very recently, we agreed on a reconciliation. Twice, the ministry's team was going to lead this process. They didn't show up.
Is Arik the only one owing?
Arik is not the only one owing, but he's the only one who doesn't pay. Of course, everyone owes, but they pay. They pay. They negotiate with you. They discuss with you. They take the debt seriously. They pay. But there's one that says, I'm not paying.
Well, yes, Arik did hold a press conference about this matter yesterday. Let's bring it to you now.
Just when they were getting ready for the day's business, the staff and passengers of Arik Air, one of West and Central Africa's leading commercial airline, with 10 million passenger landmark achievement in its short history, suspended domestic flight operations temporarily.
There was no plan to stop domestic operations today, but we were compelled to do so by some staff of FAAN, who to this morning we woke up and started normally. We had checked in a lot of passengers when we discovered that some people were locking the boarding gates, and we looked at that. We tried to see how we can cope with that, but it was very difficult, and there was no way of getting the passengers to the aircraft. And aviation has a lot of rules. We have to abide by these rules.
The airline has utterly debunked any report that it is owing the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, despite the continued hostilities from both the Airport Authority and the Minister of Aviation. The airline staff also expressed their disappointment over the treatment meted out on their guests who were locked in by staff of FAAN.
As professionals, we want to operate in a safe and a very safe environment. We must make sure that all the problems have been resolved before we can put our pilots and the airplanes in the air. We can't just start operating with this kind of hostility that we are receiving.
I haven't seen this ever before. This is quite a unique situation, and certainly one that Arik finds itself in without any precedent.
The Managing Director and Executive Vice President, who apologized for the inconvenience this has caused the passengers, also made a solemn call to the federal government to step in and resolve the ongoing feud between the Arik Air and the Ministry of Aviation.
We very much sympathize with the passengers, and we very much regret all the inconveniences they passed through. The press conference we've had today is to call on the federal government to intervene. And we have also shown you the letters we've written both to FAAN and to the presidency, calling for intervention, calling for someone to mediate between FAAN and the ministry and then Arik, because the FAAN and the ministry on one side and then Arik.
Well, there you have some response from Arik there, and it just keeps going on and on. But one wonders, what do they have to do to sort this out? Or what do both parties have to do to sort it out?
I already said from the beginning that it is in our interest that Arik survives. Arik plays an incredibly important role. I think that they've gotten to that point where the Americans are saying about their banks, too big to fail. They are the only airline that operates to all our airports. They have an incredibly important link of taking people from every airport into Abuja or Lagos and circulating people in the country. It's a very, very important role, and I want nothing but the success of the airline, But it cannot succeed at the expense of other service providers, including FAAN. It cannot just operate as if it doesn't take services out of FAAN, and this is what we're saying. And I just heard the managing director of Arik on TV call for the federal government's intervention. It is the federal government he's not paying. So let's see. But what we're trying to do is to get them to recognize that they owe us and that they cannot continue to operate on a model that says they will not pay us.